This is an email interview that I did with Richard Lee, also known as Blue Snags here on YouTube. And he's a very knowledgeable collector, and he takes the time to watch YouTube reviews and provide us with accurate, interesting feedback. And he was very gracious and decided to share some pictures of his collection with us and to answer a few questions. And I asked, "How long have you been collecting?" "Since February 1978. I passed on the early bird kit when it came out in 1977 because I was planning to get the 4 early bird figures when released in stores. Of course, I have the vintage early bird kit with the boxed 4 figures." "What was your first Star Wars toy that you can remember?" "That's easy. It was a vintage Darth Vader from February 1978 from Cloverleaf Hobby Shop in Union Gap, Washington. I still remember that new vinyl smell fresh from the package. Vintage collectors know what I'm talking about." "What is the most interesting or your favorite item in your collection today?" Now that's a hard one. I have a Palitoy Death Star, which I consider interesting because almost no one in the USA knew of it. Favorite vintage collectible? All the vintage playsets, because to this day Hasbro hasn't redone them. I have a genuine vinyl cape Jawa and 3 blue Snaggletooth figures. My obscure favorite that few knew the history about, coming from the Sears exclusive Cantina Adventure set. Can you give us any reflections or personal thoughts on the vintage Kenner toys as a whole? They were simple because, although each figure now looks like it came from a Fisher-Price collection, there were no multiple figures made of each character. For example, the Death Star escape Han or Luke or Vader in scene-specific poses. What did you think about the 1990s Power of the Force 2 line of toys? Was it an exciting relaunch of the franchise or an insult to collectors? It was an exciting relaunch that I was looking forward to because I was thinking, here it goes again. It was not insulting to collectors because this was a chance to make new collectors and enable older collectors to renew our interest in all things nostalgic. I see most of your items are loose and in great condition, but what is your opinion on keeping items in the packaging? As a kid, I imagined what it would be like to keep Star Wars toys in the packaging as a valuable collectible, not thinking that anyone did that. Packaged items are great display pieces which older people who don't play with toys like to have. I personally like them loose so I can make dioramas and play with my action figures. That line from Spaceballs by Mel Brooks comes to mind with Rick Moranis saying, "Now, princess, I have you in my power." Your display center for your loose figures is amazing. Was it custom made or is this an item other people can buy? I'm glad you noticed that. It was custom done by Tom Aquino at www.figuredisplay.com. What do you think of modern figures, particularly the vintage collection line of toys? I enjoy the realism of the modern, especially vintage collection. Now it's opportune to update the characters that Kenner made 30 plus years ago to reflect more accurately what the characters actually looked like. Do you ever plan on selling your collection or to stop collecting? For the vintage that I have, no. I collect from time to time as I can't be a completist. I will stop collecting when finally Hasbro does modern versions of all the Kenner figures, and they're almost there. I may collect beyond that if there's something that catches my eye. With Star Wars toys lining the shelves for 24 of the last 34 years, do you think they'll ever stop being popular? Yes, I think things come in cycles. They'll stop being popular for a while, but it will come back. The hobby has ebbed and flowed now for 16 years and counting. I never imagined that after the vintage Power of the Force days of 1985 that we would ever see Star Wars toys again, being even more popular now than they were 34 years ago when they were first made. Hasbro and Sideshow, along with others, were unimaginable back then. The hobby is stronger than ever, but all things decline for a time. Have you ever branched out into non-Star Wars collecting, such as Transformers, other lines of toys, or memorabilia? Yes, I love Shazam, Captain Marvel superhero memorabilia. The DC Comics Fawcett superhero is my favorite from childhood, and there is a new Shazam Captain Marvel action figure out each year, I've noticed. He's better than Superman. Can you give any advice to aspiring collectors who are just starting out? Yes, ask themselves what they really like, action figures, plates, glasses, toys, or adult collectibles, and set a moderate budget for control's sake. What do you think of the Star Wars reviewing community on YouTube? The Star Wars reviewing community is awesome because they review items for us who aren't sure if we'll get them or not, and to give us a free sample before we commit to buying them. I only wish the older reviewers would exercise more tact and sensitivity on YouTube because there are children out in the audience. Do you have any interesting collecting stories you would like to share with us? Plenty. Like how I managed to know Steve Sansweet years before he became super famous, when I had his home phone number and used to call him. I met others who have helped over the years complete my vintage collection. Or the time that I got a C9 blue snaggletooth in Cantina Adventure set with a lot for only $150, and then turned around and sold the lot for the same amount of $150 but kept the blue snaggletooth. It was basically a free rare figure for me. Long before trade magazines like Toy Shop or eBay, it took years to find items. I spent 2 years from 1985 to 1987 trying to get Yak Face from a friend who had a contact who went to the 1987 LA Sci-Fi Gathering with George Lucas himself as a guest there. I was able to contact an English dealer who sold me a carded tri-logo Yak Face for $60, which I subsequently opened. Years later, in 1998, I met this dealer in person, finally, in Pasadena, California, and told him that he was the one who sold me my tri-logo Yak Face for such a low price. He asked if I wanted to sell it back to him. No way. Well, thank you, Mr. Lee, for sharing your collection and thoughts with us. If it weren't for hardcore collectors like you, we probably wouldn't have the chance to collect Star Wars today. And you can see that even on this channel, we have members of all age groups, and the hobby is still going strong. And, you know, it's because of hardcore dedicated collectors who for decades now have been collecting that we get all this great information, and it really feeds the hobby. So thank you very much. Thank you for your time. May the Force be with you.